you have for us this hour?
Well, thank you very much and welcome. We are coming to you live from the Sandton Convention Center here in Johannesburg. It's the second day of a very historic conference known as CITES, which is actually looking at how to regulate the international trade on wildlife and also to strike the balance between those countries who actually want to gain some source of revenue from the rich biodiversity that they have in their own countries, while on the other side you've got countries who actually maintain that we need to make sure that we protect the animals, we should not sell them, and it's a very delicate balance that they need to strike. This is the second day and we expect that the delegates would get to knuckle down on various issues that are actually coming through this conference, looking at the difficulties that each country and each region is going to present to this conference. But to tell us more about what we can expect on this second day is the spokesperson from the Environmental Department here in South Africa. Abe Modise is going to tell us more about what we can expect. So thank you very much for joining us at the second day. What are we looking at today in terms of the issues that are very critical to the delegates here?
Thami, thank you so much. I think the scene was set yesterday by the President, clearly indicating South Africa's commitment to the CITES program, but also articulating and expressing a view that is shared by most South Africans, that South Africa is the home to, for an example, the biggest rhino population, but also implementation of our policy positions is informed by science. So whenever we take a position at meetings like this, we take that decision informed by science. Of course, today there are a whole lot of other discussions stemming from yesterday's opening address, but also for us as South Africa to take forward a position that is also pro-development, pro-job creation, but at the same time have all those side events where some of those positions that are going to finally be deposited into the plenary sessions for them to be canvassed and discussed in those side events. We have, for an example, a focus on people and parks as part of our discussions today in the side events. That's a very critical area because the history of this country is such that where national parks are sitting right now, communities used to live in those areas. Apartheid era pushed out those communities, parks were created. Post-1994, in tandem with the national rhythm of reconciliation, building a new country, the discussion that raged was, what do you do with those areas? And the People and Parks seeks to do exactly that, to say, how do we allow conservation and people development to coexist side by side in a manner that takes away conservation from being an elitist discussion to being a pro-development and also pro-people initiative and the programs.
Now let's get to one of the critical issues which is quite controversial now, which I think is going to define the debates and the discussions in this conference, which is the issue of the banning or the legalization of trading in rhino horns as well as the ivories.
Yes.
Now, where do South Africa sit in this debate? Are we in favor as the country that we should be allowed to sell the rhino horns, or we should be allowed to sell the ivories in South Africa?
Thami, our policy position taking its cue from science, it says sustainable utilization of natural resources. What it simply means in simple language is that we should continue to use our natural resources in such a manner that we still have enough available for the generations after us. The Constitution is very clear. We are supposed to protect the environment for the current and the future generation. But of course, you are going to have a situation where other countries don't actually view it that way. We believe strongly that part of our position is that allows for trade. But of course, as South Africa, we are not coming here to put forward a proposal for trade. Cabinet was very clear. We as South Africa need to go back to the drawing board, make sure that all the prerequisites that the Cabinet had asked us to work on are met. One of them is about the security, but also to have a sense of how much you have in terms of the rhino stockpile. How much is in private hands, how much is in public hands. Because if you were to advocate the opening of trade as South Africa, for an example, you need to know how much you need to deposit out into the public space, but also who your potential trading partner is. But we are of the view that despite the fact that we're not coming here to propose trade, we are not opposed to trade as a country. We've taken a view that trade is part of the whole conservation program that we implement, but also it must be seen within that particular context. But our positions all the time are informed by science. So science drives our policy. So it's not a thumbs-up position that is being presented by some of the NGOs as if we're just here to present positions that are not well canvassed. It's well researched, well canvassed, and well articulated by scientists.
I understand that the minister is quite very busy. She's had quite a lot of bilaterals with various countries to ensure that you got support in terms of the decisions that we have to take. Tell us more about the bilateral that she had with Namibia. In what context did that happen?
Look, we've got a whole range of bilaterals. As you can imagine, all the countries are here, and that's an opportunity for us to also canvass and share ideas with some of our like-minded countries, but also some of the countries that come from a totally different direction altogether. The discussions with Namibia, the discussions with Laos, the discussions with other countries as well. The idea is that some of those will culminate into the signing of the Memorandum of Understanding. MOUs are critical in terms of execution of our responsibilities because you arrive at a conference like this, you agree on key areas in terms of dealing with illicit wildlife trade. But for implementation purposes, you must have a Memorandum of Understanding in existence to guide and set out parameters within which to operate. We've got one existing as well with Mozambique. We've got one existing with Vietnam. We have one in China. And our plan is to ensure that we sign all of those Memorandum of Understanding with a view to create that enabling environment for us as South Africa to work closely with those partner countries, but also to ensure that there's a legal framework that guides us.
Okay, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Well, those are some of the issues that we are likely to get from this conference. Very controversial indeed, especially the issue of trading in ivory and the rhino horns. And it's really going to define the debates and the discussions that are going to take place as from today going forward. With that, it's back to the studio.